Hey guys, it's Dan. Welcome back. This is going to be a review of Victrix's new Persian Armored Archers set. So 30 models in this kit. This set was released simultaneously with a unarmored variant, also with 30 models. And actually, they have released a couple of different sets within this range. There are armored and unarmored cavalry, and then there are armored and unarmored spearmen. So these came out just this year, right around the time that the hoplites, I guess a little bit before, but the new Greek hoplites that we looked at together was released. So I picked up this kit. I was kind of back and forth on whether I wanted the armored or the unarmored variant, but I went with this because I really liked the look of the linen armor, and there's like some padded armor in here too, but the linothorax kind of style armor that is pictured there up at the top. And I had a specific eye in mind of kind of blending these in with my Carthaginians to make some, Persian mercenary archers, but also to add like maybe some Greek or Carthaginian heads to these bodies specifically to maybe paint them up as Greeks. So anyway, so with that in mind, again, 30 models in this particular kit. This one is the first one I realized that we've looked at together, or will look at together, that comes with a command sprue. So we'll take a look at that here momentarily. Yeah, 30 models in the kit. It looks like there's going to be 6 sprues of this main frame, 4 models piece, so 24 of that style. And then there's going to be, yeah, so 30 models in the kit. I just had to count this twice because I thought there was 1 command sprue, but it looks like there are 2. So the math now adds up in my mind. So there's 6 of this main sprue for 24 models off of the main sprue frame, and there are 2 command sprues with 3 models apiece. So again, 6 of the main sprue for 24 models, and then 2 command sprues, 3 models apiece. That's your extra 6, and that gets us up to 30 models. What I don't see in here is a schematic of any kind. I don't know if one was missing from mine. Maybe it was bundled up here. Nope, no schematic. But maybe I haven't shown it off very well in prior kits, but all of them actually come with details on the back, just in written format, kind of text format of this. Right, it's providing the exact same information on the back here. So you can see here that they're recommending different heads and arms to go with different bodies. This is a little bit less user-friendly. Again, I'm a corporate accountant by trade, so like this doesn't faze me at all, but I could see how most people would find this a little more frustrating to deal with than a printed out, schematic of how these different bits go together, because it's much easier to deal with at a glance. So, but we can take a look at these together. Let's look at them one at a time. Maybe we'll look at the command sprue first, just because that one is smaller. So here's the command sprue. We'll do an overview shot here. So 2 of these command sprues, 6 total models. This looks very similar to the Carthaginian command sprue in terms of not so much the bits, but the poses of the models that are on the sprue here, especially this guy with like the cloak over his shoulder, the scale armor there. That Carthaginian sprue even I think comes with like a trumpeter body, like totally unarmored. It comes with an officer that has kind of a cloak over his shoulders and scaled armor. In fact, I might, yeah, here we go. So we'll do a little cut there in the video. But you can see this body, these are my work in progress, like other 12 models from the Hannibal's Veterans unit that I'm doing. But you can see this is a distinct model. This is from the Carthaginian set. But you can see how, kind of in terms of styling, it's very similar looking, I think, to the Persian officer there. Which I quite like. It's like a little bit of continuity to how they're doing officers and command sprues. So that's cool. So yeah, we've got an officer's body here. It looks like it can take a couple of different weapon arms. And again, we could consult the back of the package there to figure out exactly which arms go where. Similar here, we've got another one. I really love how they're doing this scaled armor. I think it looks really fantastic. And we're seeing this now. The new Greek hoplite sprue has a scaled variant. Even I think it was the early Saxons had some scaled armor. So I'm really pleased to see them including this more and more. And then we've got an unarmored body down here that looks like it's supposed to go with this trumpet. And then lots of head options up here. So yeah, really cool. And then this guy, I assume, is supposed to be holding one of these standards here. Some nice little accoutrements. Some shield options here. Basic Greek shield. Some like wicker Persian shields. No sculpting on the back of these, but very nice sculpting on the front. And it looks like, again, there's a crest here. I even thought this one looked more like a Carthaginian helm. So lots of cool options just on the command sprue. So let's take a look at the main sprue. Again, the main sprue, I had to count it twice, but there's 6 of this main sprue with 4 bodies apiece. So 24 regular infantry models with bows, and then 6 command models. You can break those up however you like. In fact, the command, this one, like this body, if you don't need 2 trumpeters, just looking at it, I think some of these archer or the bow arms, I think would fit on him fairly nicely. If you're looking to have a couple more archers out of this kit. So we'll do another overview shot here. Again, this is the first time we've had, well, I guess the horse sprues on the medieval knights. But I think this is the first time we've had multiple sprues to look at from a Victrix set, which is very nice to see. And again, lots of options, it looks like, which is very cool. So straight away, I also noticed that there are no hand weapons on this one. I didn't expect any, but this is just something to note. It's the same thing that we saw on the Norman crossbowmen that we just unboxed, and I presume that's something that will carry over to like the Dark Age archers. However, knowing how well Victrix sets blend together, kind of kit bash together, I assume there would be no difficulty in taking like some of these bodies, combining it with perhaps the armored or unarmored spearmen, Persians, and creating some models that way. So let's take a look at these bodies here in the center. Again, this is the armored variant. From what I saw of the sprue of the unarmored set, the sets are very comparable looking. Really, the only difference that I saw was with the 4 bodies in the middle in making that decision. It looked like the unarmored archers also came with, I guess, 2 command sprues. So there'd be 24 regular infantry guys. So really the only difference between the sets would be these bodies and the whether they're with or without armor, as the name would suggest. So you've got 2 that are in vaguely linen armor. So even this one, again, look how beautiful that's like scaled armor is in terms of detail. And I like that they've been doing that. It is a nice comparison to like their early sets, where I think a lot of the sculpting looked similar, and this is something I've been talking about the last couple of reviews I've done, where they do such a good job of making everybody look individual, and especially for this time period, you know, ancients, Dark Ages, certainly well before Napoleonics, before like uniforms became a thing. It's just nice to see that, because it adds, I think, a lot of character and personality to these miniatures, especially if you're using this for something like Saga, where you've got models individually based. I think that's just cool. Any kind of skirmish style game, it's cool to have a little bit more individualism. So yeah, you've still got kind of linen skirts, or perhaps leather skirts here, but this is like a padded variant. So it's cool. It's almost like they're all a blend of one another in terms of armor styling, just kind of mix and match. And it's neat to see. Unlike the Greeks, these guys have pants, so it's a little more civilized that way. This one's cool. He's got a leg that I think juts out this way, because it would be very difficult to have on an injection mold without the leg kind of coming out this way. But that way you've got a kneeling pose. So that's also just something to be aware of, that you're going to end up with the 6 kneeling poses in a unit of 30. That's something I want, but if it's not something you want, that's just something to be aware of. If you're looking for no crouching poses, you're going to have to either have a smaller unit or pick up multiple sets and get some more standing poses that way. But yeah, really nice sculpting. You can see that all of them, except for, I guess, this one as well, have indentations here, divots for what appear to be notches on you. So 2 of the quivers have notches that would go here, and it looks like 2 of them do not. And these would go on these guys here. And all that would mean is that 2 of the quivers are going to be kind of in a fixed pose because of the way that this is going to connect here. They're always going to go in the same direction, whereas these, you have a little bit more leeway in how the quivers are aligned against the bodies. So no big deal there. I guess while we're here, because the shields are on the sides of the bodies, let's take a look at these shield designs. I can't remember what these are called, and I don't... Yeah, they're called sparas. Spara is the large shields here, kind of like equivalent of a European vise. And it appears that these stakes are not like anti-cavalry stakes. These stakes are designed to hold up the spara, and I don't see an attachment point back here anyway, or anywhere, which is fine. That means that you got a little bit more room to maneuver in terms of how you want to model these. But I like this a lot, even from just a gaming modeling standpoint, that you could have like a stand of just shields in front of your miniatures. So I think that those add some value there. I like that a lot. Once again, on these smaller shields, these smaller crescent shields, there's no sculpting on the back, which is maybe my only point of disappointment from a modeling standpoint. Again, I don't typically paint the back of shields except for like a solid wood color. But I do like the look of some sculpting. Like most Victrix sets have sculpting on the back of their shields. That's the only reason I am even thinking to look there. So that stands out to me a little bit. But the sculpting on the fronts are all really, really nice. And nice too that these larger shields, these sparas, all are slightly different designs. So I think if you were like mix and matching within a unit, it's going to add even more variety to things. But yeah, so enough smaller crescent shields for each model to get one as well. If that's something that you like, maybe it would be affixed to like the left arm in firing a bow. So yeah, great options there. A couple of loose arrows over here. Looks like there's 4 of them total. That's neat. And then in terms of bow options, I count 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 bows to 4 bodies, which is an excellent ratio. And I assume that means that every archer gets 2 different options for bows, knowing how Victrix normally works. And the sculpt, they're all kind of compound style. And you can see, actually, it looks like some are slightly longer than others. Back to my point about Victrix liking some variety. But yeah, the sculpting here is crisp, detailed enough as far as I'm concerned. And then for like knocking arms, you've got some that are just open hands, some that are holding arrows, and it looks like there's basically 1 option a piece. These ones down, so you have 4 arrow knocking hands, which is cool because that could mean that you could model up an entire unit to look like they're about to launch a volley, like they've all got arrows knocked, ready to go. I like that a lot. And then these ones down here look actually like they're pulling an arrow out of the quiver. So I'll test out one of those just to see how it works. But from looking at it, since these guys have left arms, or excuse me, their right arms drawn, I think that these hands must go with these 2 bodies, like they're reaching behind themselves to pull an arrow out of the quiver. It's kind of what that looks like to me. And then these arrows down here in the ground, again, back to like modeling ideas. This is something I've seen, I think, only in Perry Miniatures in their War of the Roses line. I might have done it with their Agincourt kit too, but I just like this kind of like base flare kind of options. So this is neat, just so you can have some models that stuck arrows down into the ground. So you'll end up having, I guess, 12 little sets of these arrows, if that's something you would like to add. And then let's take a look here on the edges of the sprue. Again, these stakes, just as a reminder, go with these sparrows, these shields. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but sparrow. But then up here, in terms of accessories. Again, there's these quivers on either side. You've got like a little tomahawk style axe. And then you've got a dagger over here, dagger down here, and then another, what I would call, as an American, that looks like a tomahawk to me, but I'm certain that there is a Persian word for it. And then for heads, it looks like there are 8 heads, which is a lower ratio than like we saw on the crossbowmen, which had, I think it was like 27 heads for 6 bodies, and this is 8 heads for 4 bodies, which is perfectly acceptable. Again, 2-to-1 ratio of heads is fine as far as I'm concerned. It's just not what I've seen on prior Victrix kits, but again, some of these heads, you're gonna end up with 2 of these sprues. They can be combined with these bodies just as well, I think. But let's take a look at the detail on some of these heads. Another point too, like unlike the crossbowmen where you wanted a lot of variety because you were potentially representing different campaigns, I think there's probably only so much variety that you could theoretically achieve here, other than like some with or without facial hair. Same thing here. So yeah, looks like kind of variants of the theme there. But as I said, I'm gonna try to thread in some of their heads from different sets, like their Carthaginians, their Greeks, and see how those all combine with this set to potentially make some more diverse looking archers. But as far as like Persian style heads, these are excellent. Again, the sculpting is great. And you can see here, I'm curious to see how this syncs up with the instructions that are on the back, because you can see I keep talking about like attachment points and how that really impacts how models, how bits can be interchanged with different models. So I'm curious to see what that looks like when I'm putting them together. But yeah, I think the sculpting is excellent. It's very crisp, and I'm looking forward to putting some of these together. So let's cut to that right now and we'll see how they stack up. Hey guys, another quick intermission here. I was just about to start cutting some of these models off of the sprue, but I realized in reviewing the instructions that are on the back of the packaging here, that I think the reason they didn't include schematics for this one is because the way they've laid this sprue out is unlike any of the other sprues that we've looked at, where you had certain bits and heads that were all kind of intermixed. From comparing the numbers to the sprue here, everything is set up in quadrants, and that's the first time I've ever seen them do it this way, where in other words, if I eliminate these 3 quadrants and just look at this lower left one, those bits all go with that model, those heads all go with that model. And then the same thing here, like if I isolate that quadrant, you can see again by comparing it to the instructions, those arms go with that model, those heads go with that model, and indeed that quiver is specific to this model as well. So you can do that with this sprue. Like you could even actually like cut these apart in such a way that they were like individual, just little quarters here, and you'd be perfectly fine. You don't even have to use these instructions. So yeah, as soon as I looked at that and compared to the bit numbers, it became clear what they were doing here. And then I think why they did not include schematics with this, because as soon as you figure that out, you don't even need to reference the schematics anymore. You just know to stick to bits here, stick to bits here, stick to bits here, what have you. So anyway, let me cut now. I'm gonna put some of these together for you and we'll see how they look. I'll let you guys in on a little secret about my editing process, which is that as I'm building figures, I'm typically listening back to the footage that I had just shot in reviewing, the sprues. And I realized that I was more critical of this set, I think, than I've been of any Victrix unboxing that we've done so far. But I think sometimes companies can really be a victim of their own success, in that the criticisms that I leveled are so small, right? Things like the backs of the shields not having sculpting on them, and other Victrix sets do, right? That there's 8 heads to 4 bodies, which is a ratio that is beyond what a lot of other companies put out, but not the 27 heads to 6 bodies that we saw on the Norman crossbowman set. So what I really don't want to get lost here with those critiques is just how phenomenal the sculpting on these models is. And you can see that here. Some of the poses that they've achieved are, I think, some of the most natural looking archer firing poses. Let's not forget that this is a multi-part plastic set put together with like 5 different pieces, right? And anyway, all of that is to say that at its core, these are beautifully sculpted models, crisp details. So any like criticisms that I have are really comparing Victrix to itself, because I think that their kits really are industry leading. So with that aside, these are super easy to put together actually, because again, I said 5 pieces, but really for the most part, it's like the bodies pretty much all put together. There was like this little piece for the kneeling body, but then it's head, arm, left arm, and then quiver, and then like optional pieces like this little dagger. The only other like criticism I would level is that I think that these models have more flash on them, maybe than we've seen from other Victrix kits. And maybe, I don't know how well that shows up on the camera. You can kind of see it there, like on the leg. There are a couple of places actually on the bows where it was like a noticeable amount of flash, like here. And again, I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. In terms of like, I expect model cleanup. I think that's a very normal part of this hobby and this process. And again, like even just like, for example, like boom, now it's gone, right? So it's really not a huge amount of flash. It's just, again, comparing Victrix to itself. Some of the other sets that we've seen do not have that. I also realized that in the sprue review portion of the video, I had mistakenly referred to these pieces, which show up on the sprue like this, as masks. And there are some models that have face masks. There's at least 1 or 2 that are on the command sprue. This guy here comes with a face mask as well. Right, but these pieces are actually the back of their hoods. And this is similar to the system that we saw on the early Armoured Saxons that we put together. And I like this a lot. It adds a lot of depth and dimension to the miniatures. Unlike that set, though, where I had recommended you put the heads together and then plop it down on the bodies, this I would recommend the opposite, where I would put this piece on once the head's already affixed to the body. So there you go. But you can see these are really beautifully sculpted. This head is actually from the Carthaginian set. It's just throwing together some different options there. This guy, the kneeling body, has a head off of the command sprue, so you can see that one goes on without any issue. And then this one is actually the musician from the command set that I just threw some arms on, and you can see that you can make an archer out of him without any issue. And then this shield I threw together. The only maybe thing I wish that had come with this is like a little divot, like an indentation indicating where you should put this stake that's holding it up, because it took a little trial and error. I had assumed it would be like dead center, but from the way that the angle on the ground piece is, it actually suggests that it should be the 3rd tier up. So maybe like a little dot there just to help guide where it should have gone would have been helpful, but you can see it's no issue putting it together whatsoever. And then in terms of scale, yeah, they scale with the Greeks perfectly. No issue there whatsoever. I would dare to say that, again, I think you could selectively kind of mix and match some of these bodies and heads to add some diversity to your collection. So what's the verdict? It really is another fantastic kit from Victrix. Again, some quirks about it, some fewer heads than maybe we've seen with the other Victrix sets. Still, I'd say I use the term industry leading in terms of options and variety. So another great option from Victrix. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Until next time, happy gaming.